The impudence, the audacity, the unmitigated gall of those Knuckleheads of Liberty podcasters, daring to voice opinions outside the mainstream of accepted thought. Listen if you dare. It's angry, it's funny, it's even sometimes sad, but it's always based on freedom and justice, as you will see. Here's our host, Jason McPhee.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. We are coming at you on June 29th, 2022, almost a year and a half into this Biden administration that is just economically off the rails. The little engine that couldn't, I guess. Before we get into that, let's introduce our panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. And as we've been shuffled around a little today, in our lower box today is our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. My name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. So let's get right into it. The economy is just off the rails, and maybe we could get our visual up here. This came out just a few weeks ago. We would have talked about this earlier, but we've had so many other, this just craziness during this whole Biden administration, how the news cycle never seems to stop, just coming right out of COVID and everything else. But there's just always something crazy to talk about, but especially as regards to eroding our liberties. But as far as the markets go, I mean, everything is off kilter, and we're finally starting to suffer from all of the effects of this central planning and just taking everything off the rails. Let me bring up. So what we have here is our Bitcoin. Everybody is well aware that we just had that crash. And
we hear something in your back, Jason. I'm hearing something in your background.
Yeah. I'm
okay.
Not sure what that.
Did it go away?
It just went away.
It sounded almost like an echo.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Well, anyways,
it was.
So what we have here is the Bitcoin, and I mean, my gosh, did that take a plunge recently? I mean, this is looking a month out on the Bitcoin track, and 30,000. It had been up as far as a year ago at 50,000 roughly, and even farther back, we see that it was actually had hit a peak of close to 70,000. Yes. So we're really looking at some just crazy declines.
Yeah, that's a bunch of margin calling right there. There's a whole bunch of people that had bought Bitcoin as an investment, and they put it on margin, and boom, this sell call came in. They had to sell. Everybody just bailed.
And something is different about Bitcoin too than the regular market, and just to show too that the regular market has also experienced some of this craziness as well. Here's that peak we were seeing roughly for Bitcoin right around this area, and then here is the Biden slide, I guess you'd call it at this point. And it's interesting too, because as we see this trend, I mean, here we are in the Trump administration, we're literally going into COVID, bam, just hits the economy like a sack of rocks. But then as we start to try to recover from it, they claim they have the whole vaccine and everything else. We start coming out of it, and then of course now all of Biden's all of Biden's central planning, all of the money printing, the wars, all that stuff now is really starting to have its toll on us. Anyways, this is kind of where we're at. This is the reality of it, and it's for Biden, his part, it's all about blame Putin. That's completely his tack on all of this stuff. So what do you guys have to say about this? I mean, this is let me kick this to you.
Can you put that stock market graph back up there, that chart?
Sure. This is the S&P 500.
All right. So you have the big slide at COVID. Okay. then you have this remember what we're talking about here. We're talking about the stock market, okay? Mm-hmm. So huge amounts of money printing under Trump after COVID. Okay, so that's not the economy right there. You're not looking at the general economy. You're looking at just the stock market right there. So all you're going to see is the effects of this massive amount of money printing. That doesn't mean, oh, we made widgets. We went back to work right after COVID, and look at what we did. Boom, right back up to where we started from in a matter of months, and then even start surpassing that. Because why? Because we're making widgets and we're just really knocking it out. No, that's not why. It's because of the stock market. It's because the Fed printed so much money, and they're still printing money, but now, it reaches the top where, they started adding to the interest rate. Oh, goodness gracious. Now, the basis for the whole casino, the whole betting monopoly based on cheap money, cheap debt. That's all it is. That's a cheap debt graph right there. And now it's just become, it got a little more expensive. Oh, look what happened. Oh, did it start tapering off? Oh, goodness gracious. Yes, it did. That's all I have to say about that.
Well, yeah, well, Tim, yes, yeah, I think you're right about that. I think most economists and most market watchers and everything else and all that we are looking at these days seem to indicate that a recession is looming. And of course, as the Feds continue to raise interest rates, of course, it's going to slow down. It's going to slow down investments, and interest rates. The interest rates will cause people to have less incentives to invest. And what's going to happen? We're probably going to have a slowdown in the economy. We can hope and pray that it does not get into a recession, but it does not look that way. And then Biden, and then with this idiotic thing about this printing of money and pumping all these federal money, all these Fed dollars, these fake money into the economy, causing this inflation. And of course, the way they're going to solve the inflation problem is to raise interest rates to try to slow down the economy, I guess, to help prices, I guess, and thus, will get us into a better place. But the better place was going to be a recession, and that recession is not going to be a good thing for many people. But if you go back to the 1980s, this is how Paul Volcker solved the big recession when Ronald Reagan took office. He raised interest rates. We went into a recession, but we came out of it pretty quickly. But I don't know if this is going to happen this time. Even if they do raise the interest rates, even if we do get into a recession, I don't know if we're going to come out of it as quickly, given the central planning tendencies of the Biden administration, or Democratic administrations in general. So it doesn't look good. The signs, unemployment is still at a good level, but the signs does not look very good. It is not very encouraging right now.
Well, maybe they shouldn't try to manipulate from the top the economy like this. Maybe they shouldn't be using interest rates to put the gas or the brake pedal on the economy. Maybe the interest rates ought to fall to wherever the market would bear normally. Yes. So now I'm talking Austrian economics compared to the morons at the Keynesian side. And so I know the war is over. The Keynesians won. Okay, so all this jibber jabber from me at this point in time is for naught. Okay, because it's never going to happen to where we actually allow a free market. We're in money. We're not going to ever have that unless maybe we have a complete monetary collapse, and then we have to go to something that's more stable and cannot be artificially created at will. But until and unless that happens, this kind of stuff is just going to continue to happen. Okay, it's just all this nonsense of manipulating the interest rates and the money supply and all this stuff is just going to continue to cause the middle class and the lower class to go through pain and agony. And
unnecessary
the people,
pain and agony. Yes.
Yeah, totally unnecessary.
Yes.
Unless the only necessary part of it comes from the top, the people that are making the money off of it, the bankers and the people in the top echelons of the financial system are making buku bucks, even though the bucks may be worth less, but they don't care. They'll just make more. You know, it doesn't matter to them what the value of the dollar is at Walmart, because they never go to Walmart. You know, they go to a little bit nicer place than Walmart. So and shop for all their little nicks and knacks. So anyway, yeah, this whole Keynesian nonsense, which will have other opportunities if Jason segues into them, to talk about more Keynesian nonsense.
I think you guys
unemployment thing.
I think you guys already segued into it. So if we can get this image up, and we'll jump back on the other issue after a second.
That's the one. That's the one, right?
Yeah, exactly. But what I wanted to point out from what you guys are saying is, aside from the fact that, and Leon, when you talked earlier about, Biden printing money, well, I mean, it's certainly true too. I mean, what Tim said, hey, look, that money printing was going on well before Biden. But the key difference is, at least Trump was allowing the economy to function. Under Biden's economy, he was literally trying to keep people home and not working the whole time, which is part of what has, amplified this whole thing. So not only have we had all these presidents who have increased the money supply and, crazy amounts of spending and debt, but then we have the double whammy of non-productivity to boot. So, I mean, that old, debt to GDP graph that we've shown on countless shows, that's where it really
but Jason, what we
hit.
should add to that, though, I mean, energy is what we need to drive this economy. And they are trying to destroy the oil and gas industry right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that is a big contributor to our problems.
Yeah. It's not just the idea that he's telling people to stay home through the COVID thing and paying people to be unproductive and paying people to essentially march and burn down businesses. But at the same time, he's literally, stopping productivity in one area of our economy that was actually strong. And then he's outsourcing that. He's literally going hat in hand to Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, almost the list of usual suspects, except for Russia. Russia is, the boogeyman, so we can't get anything from Russia. But everybody else, no matter what human rights violations you have on the table, we're cool dealing with you under the Biden administration. So it's just absolutely obscene. But then all of that central planning, and then to top it off, they have the nerve to come back later and say, oh, well, we screwed up earlier with all of this central planning. What we want to do is force some more unemployment to get this all under control.
Yeah.
Don't worry, guys. We got it this time with our planning.
Can I say something about that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, these Keynesians have absolutely this much. That's a zero shame. They just have none whatsoever. They want to pick on people that are on the fringes of employment and create more of that. Or they think they do. They think that's going to solve something. Never mind that for the past 2 years, between 2020 and 2022, approximately 1/3 of the existing credit and currency in the monetary system was created in those 2 years. Oh, what about that? That's been. Oh, you mean? Oh, that didn't have anything to do with Putin. That didn't have anything to do with unemployment. That didn't have anything to do with anything except there's a bigger pie of dollars out there, and we still have the small piece of the pie, which is now smaller, that we had before in our pockets and in our bank accounts and in our checks every month, every 2 weeks or whatever. And so that is what has caused the inflation. This supply and demand. If you increase the supply and demand stays approximately the same, what's going to happen to the price? Okay, it's going to go down. So essentially the price of money went down. The value of money went down. We have that to blame for inflation. That increase of a third of the amount of credit and currency in the monetary system is to blame, and no one and nothing else. And anybody that says different is a Keynesian with a brain the size of a walnut.
But this administration. I mean, you're absolutely right, Jason. That the quantitative easing that is what set off these problems. The quantitative easing started in Trump. Well, no, it probably started before Trump, to be honest. This quantitative easing.
Yeah. Trump did a ton of that. He accounted for a real high level of debt. Yes. And but so did Obama, and so did Bush, for far as that goes. Yeah, I mean, Obama doubled the debt from deficits. That's where it comes from. Doubled the debt in his 8 years in office. Sorry.
Yeah, and you're right. You're right. But this quantitative easing is a major problem for middle class Americans, because any little bit of savings that we have, this thing is eating away. This inflation is eating away at our purchasing power, and that's what is going on here. And these central planners, they can't manage the books of the federal government, but they think they could manage our books by this nonsense that they're trying to do. They're trying to tell us they could fix the economy. Well, they can't. I mean, Milton Friedman told us it was always a monetary phenomena, and he have always wanted a stable expansion of the money supply, some number, 1%, 2%, whatever it was.
Right, it was 2%.
Was 2%, right? And let the market determine whether interest rates will fall, and that's how the economy could keep on going and striving and everything. Sometimes we slip into a recession or whatever and that kind of stuff, but it will bring about a giant stability in our economic activities and transactions. But these central planners, they can't deal with that. They're gonna fix things for us, and they always get it wrong, always.
Friedman's. I'm sorry, Jason. Friedman's idea is also central planning. You know that the whole 2% thing. That's okay. That's dialed in. That's unlike anything else in nature. In nature, things fluctuate. We have the seasons. We have fluctuations even of interest rates normally, but we could argue whether his idea would be better or worse than a totally free market idea, where the money supply may shift, not just continue a perfectly 2% increase, but may shift, because that whole idea behind 2% is to try to match that with the growth in productivity of about 2%, which is, and so that's the whole idea. So we could argue, and I could probably make as good an argument for one or the other, but nothing, the whole idea of this Keynesian stuff is completely blown out by either of the winners of that argument. Either steady 2% or kind of, let the money supply either be completely stopped, like in gold, everything backed in gold. So even gold has an increase in they mine new gold. There's more gold out there on the planet.
Right,
It's also has an increase.
It was just the best we had for a long time, as far as having control over the supply
for eons.
Yeah,
for eons. But you can't make money on gold. You have to be able to manipulate it at will. Every little facet of it, and that's where Keynesians come in and screw everybody else. Us people that aren't rubbing elbows with the rich and famous. Us normal people. These are the people that get screwed under Keynesianism, and even people that are in that position. I know people that are fans of that Keynesianism. Anyway, there we are.
Yeah, well, Paul Krugman is one of those economic idiots. I don't know how that man won a Nobel Peace Prize. Well, it's
Well,
because
Yeah, well, believe me, he's rubbing elbows with the rich and famous. That guy.
of course he
well,
is.
well, before we go too far off the rails, otherwise we're going to be off the rails as far as Biden's economy if we don't get back on the rails. But, as far as the controlling from the top, another scary thing we're hearing a lot of recently now is people starting to discuss price controls, and maybe we could get the image back up on that. So this is something I've heard starting to get debated on television or the different news sources online that I watch. And essentially, this is the Democrat pitch now. Well, it's not our terrible planning. It's either Putin's price hike or it's greedy businesses. And if only we could control the prices for these businesses, everything would be fine. So, I just can't think of more economic illiteracy piled upon more economic illiteracy. Just one thing after another of trying to control things instead of just letting the market price signals speak, which is what we should be doing in the first place. There's no reason prices have to be even steady, right? I mean, if we become more productive, we want prices to fall. That literally tells us that we're being more productive and we're doing a better job. We're saving things. But anyway, I'll let you guys jump on this.
I mean, if you look about this prices falling, Jason, look at the price of technology that have been going on here for the last 20 years. Prices have been falling. Look at for your iPhone right now. You know what it cost originally to get an iPhone with comparable features as you do now? I mean, or a personal computer, a PC, a laptop like that I am on right now. I mean, prices, the mere fact productivity have brought about these lower prices just because we had a free market working relatively well. Or the price of laser technology for your eyes have been falling for the last 15 years. Again, technology at work, innovation at work. And this is what the central planners don't understand. Anytime you have price controls, it leads to shortages. There's no doubt about this. We tried this during the Nixon administration, and that is exactly what happened. It leads to shortages. And people suffer more under the price controls than they would have if the market was allowed to fluctuate as it will as a result of a free market working. But this is what the central planners always think. They could fix things, and they can't.
Yeah. Well, let me throw something in, too, because you mentioned Nixon as well. And this is something that Democrats are using as a selling point here. They're saying that, hey, a Republican president did this before. You guys should all be for this. This is literally the pitch they're trying to make. And by the way, this is one of the reasons why libertarians are not Republicans as well, right? Because we see that they're willing to make some of these same mistakes, too.
Well, this is why I don't watch television news. I would go nuts if my day would end. I probably wouldn't sleep very well, and my day would end on a sour note if I had to go through the pain and agony of listening to these morons wax prophetic about these stupid ideas that have been so completely blown out of the water by not only every anecdotal evidence throughout history of it being utilized, which is not just Nixon, it's gone way back where they've done this nonsense. And every time it ends in basically what Leon's talking about, shortages, people just put up their hands. Well, it's not even worth making. I'm not even going to do it. Duh. They're just so stupid. It's beyond me. I mean, anybody that mentions price controls, right away, you know that they have the intelligence of a moron. Okay, right away.
Well, speaking of the intelligence of a moron, I want to jump right into the Knucklehead Noise Patrol this time because, a lot of times they say the captain of the ship, the president, doesn't have that big of an impact on the economy. And I think we've proven the rule wrong here with the guy who's currently in office. I mean, you're literally looking at somebody who can get everything wrong and somebody who, quite frankly, it's amazing they're in office. As we segue into that, there's one point I wanted to bring up, and that's his claim. And this sort of leads into what we're going to talk about here. But his claim that he keeps making about, well, this is all due to Putin. It's not me. It's Putin that's caused that. And his own Fed chair even contradicted him on this, saying, no, these prices were headed up before you got into war with Putin. I mean, he didn't say that, but We have
Yeah.
talked about this on this show, and literally, he even signaled to Putin before, hey, if you take a little incursion
It's
into
okay.
Ukraine, yeah, we might not do anything.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
okay,
mean,
yes.
this guy is just a knucklehead, and that's why we want to talk about this crazy cheat sheet. Now, we've heard stories about him having a cheat sheet before. We've seen little notes that he's supposed to call on certain people at certain times. Well, this one takes the cake. This is scary stuff. This is literally saying that this guy maybe is not in control of his faculties. And we're going to show you the list here. But he literally has a list that is telling him when to sit down. And here's the list.
He's maybe not in control. Maybe, perhaps, he's not in control of his
Yes,
faculties.
exactly.
He could be in control.
Here's a picture of him showing the list. He's obviously not proud of it. He doesn't realize what he's doing here, showing the list. But then here's a close-up of the list, so you can actually see what it is. It says "you" in capital letters, so he knows it's him they're talking about. You enter this room. You take your seat. And he tells who else is gonna enter. And he says, "You give your comments," right?
Yeah.
I mean, he literally needs this stuff capitalized so he knows it's him. It's really scary stuff. You guys have any thoughts on this?
It is. We love to laugh at these things during our Knucklehead Noise Patrol segment, Jason and Tim. We love to laugh at these things, and there's a lot to laugh at here. But there's a very serious issue going on here. Okay, very, very serious. Because I am truly wondering who is in control of the executive branch of government. It is clearly not Joe Biden, even though under our rules he was elected and thus he's the commander in chief. He has the nuclear codes and everything else and that kind of stuff. He could make decisions about war and about our economy and all that kind of stuff like that. And this guy need a list to tell him when to sit down, when to exit the room, when to make comments. You need a list for this? And you're supposed to be the commander-in-chief of the most powerful army in the world? This is scary shit. You're right. Oh, God, I used the word. I'm sorry. Leave it out. Okay? This is some scary stuff. This is really, really scary stuff.
Well,
it makes me wonder who is in control of our executive branch of government.
I think it's enlightening. I think it's wonderful to finally be proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that somebody else almost always controls the presidency. Not every facet of it, and some presidents are a little more, useful than others as far as their demeanor and so on. But yeah, I mean, the president is really literally a puppet, and I think, and I'm not saying I know who's behind the puppet, and I think there is some of them, like Obama, for example, has things to say that and that might be part of the guidance. But anyway, we're coming up against the limit. So, yeah, good thing. Now we can see.
Your whole puppet thing, too. Musk, again, got it right. He called Biden at one point a limp sock puppet, and he had it right again. But that's all we have time for today on our show. So hopefully the economy won't collapse completely, and we'll be here again next week for you. Until then, stay free.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.